For more, we are joined on the phone by Bill O'Reilly, anchor of No Spin News and host of We'll Do It Live. Bill, always good to see you. I know you've known Lindsey for quite some time, but recently you sat down with Senator Graham for a long-form interview on We'll Do It Live. I was watching it. It's a great conversation. We'll be getting into it, but I want to start with your reaction to this devastating and sudden news.
Well, I didn't know the senator that well. I don't really hang with politicians. I have to cover them. But every time I was in his presence, he was engaging, and he didn't lie at all. That's what people need to know here. I compare Lindsey Graham's policy bent to Winston Churchill. They're not the same guy, and obviously Churchill went through World War II and all that, but they both believe that evil could only be confronted by power, hard power, where there are a lot of politicians that believe in soft power. Barack Obama was one of those, that you wear people down and you try to do everything you can, boycotts and all of this stuff to convince them. Graham was not in that corner. Graham was allied with McCain, the late Joseph Lieberman, a Democrat, and they were convinced the only way that the world would prosper was for the United States to use its military power when necessary, like after 9/11, that kind of thing. Graham was also a staunch ally of Israel. He despised Iran, despised it, because he understood the totalitarian nature and the evil that this country was wreaking upon the world. He despised Putin. He thought Putin was Adolf Hitler light, that he would never stop trying to get territory, trying to take over countries. But the thing that I respected about Senator Graham, even though I may have disagreed with him on some issues, was that he was upfront about it. There wasn't any stealth stuff. It was like, okay, this is what I believe. This is why I believe it. And he would have won, in my opinion, South Carolina, the election pretty easily. And I think the Republican will win there as well, whoever runs.
Yeah, there's no doubt he was a foreign policy hawk. Senator Graham will be remembered for his vision of American foreign policy, so often traveling overseas to meet with our allies. Like Joe Khalil just mentioned, he just returned from Ukraine. He explained to you why being involved on the international side was so important. I want to listen to a part of that interview with you, Bill.
Is why are you over there? We need you here. Why are you supporting them over there when we're paying more gas prices here? And I say, the reason I go over there is I don't want another 9/11. The last time we took our eye off the ball over there, they killed 3,000 Americans. Then I end every conversation with this thought. Do you think if the Ayatollah had a nuclear weapon, he'd use it? Most people say yes. Well, let's make sure he doesn't do it. And how do you do that sitting over here? I make an argument for smart intervention.
Bill, like you mentioned, you've covered many politicians. You've covered Senator Graham for quite some time. Any politicians like him left? He seems like one of very few left.
Yeah, he's an old-time guy. He didn't have to worry about re-election, which is always kind of a big tell for anybody in the Senate or the House. So he didn't have to nuance himself. He knew he was in. He knew the people of South Carolina respected him. If you look at his life resume, I mean, my God, all the public service. He was a JAG, and then he adopts his daughter 8 years younger because his two parents had died, and his daughter was, adrift. So he's in college, and he adopts her. I mean, the guy has a resume of achievement politically, but he's also a man I respected because I saw him do a lot of good things.
He talked a lot about the Middle East. He talked to you about his vision as well. Let's listen to that.
The center of Islam is Saudi Arabia, the Holy Mosque in Mecca and Medina.
Yep.
It is the center of Islam. If the center of Islam would recognize the one and only Jewish state, Israel, it would effectively end the Arab-Israeli conflict that's been raging for 1,000+ years. During Biden's administration, Joe Biden, I went to Saudi and Israel 8 times with Tony Blinken, Brett McGurk, Jake Sullivan, to try to build on the Abraham Accords to get Saudi to come into the Abraham Accords and recognize Israel.
Are we closer to this vision now than we were when Graham started his career in Washington, Bill?
No, yeah, because Iran is now attacking the Arab states in the Gulf. Just today, Oman, a country that's hapless, doesn't really have anything to do with geopolitics. Iran, because they can't get us, goes after it, Oman. So Lindsey Graham's vision was fairly clear for those who want to understand it. He believed that the Jewish state had a right to exist, number one. And that came off of World War II, when you had 6 million Jews exterminated and another million or so wandering around Europe with nowhere to go. And Harry Truman and Winston Churchill saved them by giving them Israel as a functioning state. That alienated all the Arabs, including Saudi Arabia. And to this day, we're still dealing with that. The Trump administration wants to put an end to that strife. And Lindsey Graham was the point man on that. But he never wavered in his belief that Israel has a right to exist and is really up against it with Hamas and Hezbollah and these other terrorists trying to exterminate as many Jews as possible. That's what the core belief was for Senator Graham.
In the last few hours, we've seen tributes pour in from both sides of the aisle. Senator Graham wasn't afraid to reach across the aisle. We've been hearing a lot about that in the last few hours. Here's his take on bipartisanship in the 3 decades he spent in government.
So I tried to help Biden deal with Saudi, Israel. I was in the Gang of 8 for immigration. I've done some things that our base doesn't like because somebody's got to solve these problems.
He resounded as the problem solver. That's how he described himself. That's how many people described him. You believe being a problem solver will be a major part of the senator's legacy?
I'm not sure about that because the problems are still there. They haven't been solved. And I think the attempt was certainly noble. But as I said, Anna, in the beginning of this conversation, Lindsey Graham's a hard power guy. All right? That's what he believes, that the planet has to be policed by the United States and others who are noble, and the villains have to be confronted. Now, in our country, we got to split on that. So you're going to see that the people who believe the way Lindsey Graham believed are going to respect him. And Coons, he's a Democratic senator from Delaware. Reed, you mentioned, from Rhode Island. They liked him because he wasn't bellicose in person. He wasn't that way. Okay, so they liked him as a person. So I think his legacy will go down as a positive legacy, but you'll get the cheap shot left going after him for the next few days or so.
You touched on what an interesting upbringing he had. He lost both his parents in college. He was the first one to attend college, like you mentioned. He took guardianship of his younger sister. He explained this to you on We'll Do It Live. Let's play that.
I'm the first person in my family to ever go to college. Neither one of my parents finished high school. When I was 21, my mom died. When I was 22, my dad died. We owned a liquor store, a bar, and a pool room, and we grew up in the back. We were a happy family, but by no means wealthy. I know what it's like to be needing all the money you can because the bills keep coming in no matter what. So when my mom died, she was 17 years younger than my dad. I thought, well, that shouldn't happen, but it did. Okay, my dad's 60-something, and I've got a 13-year-old sister. 15 months later, he's dead, and I got a 13-year-old sister. My life turned upside down. So How do you pay the bills? How's she going to college? What are you going to do? I understand that. I understand that the world can change and it can be pulled out from you under a rug.
That is an incredible story. You've covered him for so long, Bill. How do you believe events like that shaped how he was a politician, but also a person?
Lindsey Graham is a child of the South. And the mores in the South, I'm generalizing now, but it's true, are different than here in New York, where I am, in California, or wherever it may be. And family is a top priority for most in the South. So Lindsey Graham did what he should have done, but what was demanded by the society in which he lived. And the South Carolina folks always understood that. He was one of their own. So they cut him some slack. So, you know, in Iraq in particular, Graham was wrong. But they didn't hold it against him because he made his case. He wasn't, again, trying to be vague about it. It didn't work out, but he was still the same guy who helped his sister. And in the South, that means everything.
We've been showing pictures of him with Senator McCain and Senator Lieberman. Of course, the three of them were famously known as the Three Amigos. Bill, we've been talking about, or the question is coming out much more, being discussed, of what happens next. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster will soon be choosing someone to replace Graham until November's election. Undoubtedly, we'll have several people jumping in the race for the special GOP primary to be the midterm candidate as well. Senator Graham talked to you about how much politics have changed in the last few decades. I want to play that as well.
When I first started this business, you got rewarded for problem solving and, sort of knowing what you're talking about. All the energy now is to loud, not knowledgeable, just loud. If you're running in a primary right now, your goal is to get as many eyeballs as you can. And how do you get eyeballs in this world? Be provocative. Provocative is replaced intellect. Provocative is replaced problem solving.
Knowing how much South Carolinians loved him, do you think they hope to put in his place someone with similar ideals?
Yeah, I think that the Republican will take that seat. I don't know about the woman running against him, who was running against him. I don't know her. She looks like a very competent person to me. But I think that when people in South Carolina go to the polls in November, Lindsey Graham is still going to loom large. And as long as the nominee on the Republican side pretty much is similar to him in his presentation or her presentation, could be a woman, of course, okay, I think that will carry that person into the Senate.
President Trump took to Truth Social saying this, quote, "Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the greatest people and senators I have ever known, is dead. He was always working and was a true American patriot. Lindsey will be greatly missed." The senator grew from staunch critic to one of Trump's closest allies. He was even nicknamed the Trump whisperer here and there. Bill, do you know when that relationship changed?
Well, it changed because Lindsey Graham wanted to be president, and that didn't happen. So Trump beat him. And then Graham, being a very savvy politician, goes, well, here's a cliche. If you can't beat him, you join him. So I'm going to try to persuade President Trump to use the hard power option when he can. And Trump has not always held to that, interestingly enough. Trump listened to Senator Graham. I was on a three-way call with both men about a year ago. And the president listened to Senator Graham but he wasn't rubber stamping because Trump doesn't like the foreign intervention wars. He doesn't like all that. Whereas Graham, at one time, advocated that we take over Afghanistan and we stay there forever. And so Graham was a little bit further out on the aggressive side than President Trump was. But Trump respected Lindsey Graham. There's no question about it.
Yeah, there's no doubt of the respect both and admiration both men had for each other. Bill O'Reilly, anchor of No Spin News and host of We'll Do It Live. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Bill. We really appreciate it. Not many people covered him for as long as you did, and thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.